Did you know that November 26 marks the date when one of Haiti's freedom fighters was finally laid to rest after being secretly buried in concrete by Americans? My name is Andre, and I'm a genealogist who helps people to discover their history. I love being Haitian and I love Haitian history. I grew up with my uncle telling me the story of one of Haiti's freedom fighters who bravely fought against the American occupation in Haiti. He wanted his country to be liberated and freed, but sadly he was taken out before he could see his dream realized. I never forgot my uncle's story, and this man became a hero to me. So much so that back in 2019, I wanted to see if I could find his birth record. So I went searching in this big book of births to see if I can find it, going page by page. And guess what? I found it. This is the story of Charlemagne Péralte. Warning for distressing and disturbing content. Charlemagne Péralte was born in the town of Anche on October 10th, 1885. 29 years later, a man who witnessed the registration for Charlemagne's birth, Samo, became president of Haiti. Not too long after his presidency began, he was ousted and was forced to go into exile. He returned to Haiti in 1915, but the new president, Guillaume Sam, arrested him and 167 political opponents, or innocent relatives of his opponents. Guillaume Sam held all of them in a prison in the capital of Port-au-Prince, and on July 27, 1915, he ordered their execution. When news of this spread, riots erupted, eventually leading to the death of President Guillaume Sam. Enter in Charlemagne Péralte. At this time, Charlemagne had grown to become a young politician, although he was not arrested and was considered an opponent of Guillaume Sam. After Guillaume Sam was taken out, he supported a group of other politicians who called themselves the Revolutionary Committee. The Revolutionary Committee had tasked themselves with finding a new president and bring order to the country. The masses began rallying around this man, Roosevelt Bobo, to become the next president of Haiti. But the United States, who has had a long history of being involved with what happens in the Caribbean, used what was happening in Haiti as an excuse to invade, calling it an intervention. But it was a full-on invasion meant to gain complete control of the country, especially financially, intending to siphon off Haiti's national treasure to America's national city bank. Just days later, Péralte reprimanded the foreign troops who had invaded his country. He said, "If you do not leave with God, we will remove your military invasion." Despite protests by Haitians against U.S. rule and calls for support behind Bobo to become president, the United States succeeded in establishing a puppet president that they could control the whole country through. At this time, Péralte was military commander of the city of Léogâne, and when Americans tried to come into his town, the town under his charge, he refused them entry. Sarcastically, he said only the president of Haiti could give him the orders to let the Marines in, knowing that Datigneuf was not the president that he was supportive of. For a short while, he was able to keep the U.S. Marines out of Léogâne as the rest of the country was being invaded. To Haitians, he was a protector and defender, but to Americans, he was an obstinate obstacle. Because he did not acquiesce to American demands, along with his actions of supporting the Revolutionary Committee, the U.S. military was eventually able to remove him from his post. When he was removed, he was able to hold his head up high, knowing that he had done right by his people and his country, and returned to his hometown of Anche. The invasion and occupation of Haiti by the United States was violent. Martial law was instituted. A curfew was set. They said, quote, "Any Negro or dark person out of doors after 9 o'clock was to be shot on sight by a patrol if he does not surrender," end quote. Because this broad description fit almost every Haitian, many Haitians died at the hands of the U.S. military. Haitian citizens were assaulted without any disciplinary actions or accountability. The Americans quickly planned to shape Haiti in how they saw fit. Land began being taken away from people in order to build infrastructure, and a form of slavery called la corvée was instituted where they forced Haitians to build this infrastructure, such as railways. Péralte saw all of this. He was a nationalist and wanted his beloved Haiti to be free, and he hated that Americans had come over and taken over his beloved country. In 1917, just days after his 32nd birthday, he, his brothers, cousins, and a few other citizens of Anche were arrested by Americans. The Americans had accused them of having connections to an attack of an American general just days before. They were accused of possession of illegal arms and participating in this attack alongside the Cacos. Here's what you need to know about the Cacos. Haiti has had a long history of guerrilla freedom fighters stemming all the way back to the Haitian Revolution before 1804. They would strike colonial powers, disappear, and regroup the mountains and do it all over again. And during the U.S. invasion and occupation, men and women continued on their ancestors' legacy by doing the same. The Cacos were Maoons, freedom fighters, guerrilla warriors who sought to have a sovereign and free Haiti. They were against domestic wrongs and foreign domination. When the Americans came in 1915, they were against the foreign intrusion, and they wanted an end of this invasion. They wanted a Haitian government that was going to protect their well-being and way of life. But of course, the Americans called them savage foes, lawless Negroes, and professional bandits. The Americans tried to stifle their efforts by capturing, jailing, and even killing them, but they could not stop the Cacos. After their arrest, Charlemagne and his two brothers were held in jail in Cap Haitien. His brother Saint-Remy was released due to there not being enough evidence. His brother Saul was charged with concealing information about the attack, but was acquitted and placed under house arrest. Charlemagne, however, was found guilty of all charges and was sentenced to 5 years of hard labor in jail. He was forced to clean the streets of Cap Haitien as well as the prison he was sent to. Péralte was mistreated while he was imprisoned. A U.S. Marine described Péralte in an incident that occurred. He was haughty and proud, and the imprisonment he regarded more as dishonor and shame than punishment. Then a Haitian prison guard made a bad mistake. Thinking he would break down Péralte, he gave him a task of shoveling dung. Péralte flew into a rage. The guard very calmly shoved Péralte into the whole stinking mess. A Frenchman wrote to his government about an incident that he had witnessed, where he saw an American guard give a Haitian prisoner, who was likely Péralte, a broom to clean that had been placed in human excrement. Péralte was traumatized and infuriated by U.S. imperialism. Between 1915 and 1918, he had witnessed his beloved country become dismantled by the United States. He witnessed the installation of a puppet president, observed the deaths of countless of innocent Haitians, and the imprisonment, exile, and assassination of Haitian freedom fighters. And he determined to do something about this. In September 1918, a Caco had disguised himself as a guard and made his way over to the prison where Charlemagne Péralte was held. He found his cell and broke him out of prison. He made his way back to Anche and really began his militant leadership, where he issued a cry of revolt. He said, "No, it is not the work of 1804, of Dessalines, Pétion, etc., and so many other brave souls, their auxiliaries, that we must smash or cause to be smashed. For too long a time we have worked, alas, to have this terrible catastrophe fall upon us. It is again the time. There are some men, some well-meaning souls capable of defending the soil of our ancestors. To be sure, we shall not permit the insulting strangers to step on us like they are our masters, especially in our hills and our immense savannas, on the mortal and scattered remains of those who, black and mulatto, marched heroically to their death to leave us this nation." Péralte called what was happening with the United States' invasion of Haiti as being part of an international war. This was during World War I, where the United States was part of the Allies who had been against the growth of imperialism in Europe. But at the same time that the United States was in Haiti, they also had military presence in the Dominican Republic, Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Philippines, and Guam. Historian Evelyn Alexis wrote that Charlemagne Péralte had placed Haiti on the world's radar, and that he defended the guerrilla warriors' position to the world as a defensive one. Under Péralte, the Cacos became an effective military guerrilla unit. He and the Cacos launched an attack just days after his 33rd birthday. It wasn't severe, but it was enough to make the American commander of Anche worried. In an attempt to conquer the rebels, several members of the Péralte family were assassinated, including Charlemagne's brother Saul, who had been under house arrest. As the Cacos retaliated against the U.S. troops, Charlemagne as head of the liberation movement, wrote letters to France and Great Britain. He appealed to them seeking their support, but of course, due to anti-blackness, there was none. Charlemagne continued to rally the Haitians to fight. In addressing his people, he said, "Haitians, a day like the 1st of January 1804 will soon rise. For 4 years, the occupation has insulted us in every way. Every morning brings us a new sadness. The people are poor, and the occupation is weighing them down with taxes. It is spreading fires and preventing people from rebuilding with wood under the false pretense of a desire to beautify the town. Haitians, let us be firm. Let us follow the example of Belgium, no matter if our towns are burned, for it is not a vain thought that was written on the grave of the great Dessalines. Upon the first shot, the towns disappear, and the nation rises." The Cacos continued to attack the Marines. They broke the railways that the Americans were forcing Haitians to build. They set fire to military camps, took ammunition, and when all this was done, they would disappear and regroup in the mountains and do it all over again. They were a serious threat to the invading imperialist Americans. And the movement grew. Over 15,000 Cacos came underneath Péralte's leadership in the country, holding the Americans in check and keeping them out of thousands of square miles in the country. And the Americans made it a point to take Charlemagne down. They hunted and surveilled him. Eventually, they were able to bribe Haitians with money so that they can plot to end Charlemagne Péralte. On October 26, 1919, Charlemagne had made it over to the Cacos camp to strategize. The Americans found out about it and set their plans in motion. 5 nights later, on the night of October 1st/November 1st, the Haitian traders brought these 2 Marines in blackface to the Cacos camp, passing them off as peasants who were seeking asylum. They were able to enter into the Cacos camp with their weapons concealed, and on that night, they ended Charlemagne's life. The violence that brought an end to the man that sought Haiti's liberation did not stop. During the commotion, 9 other Cacos were killed. They took Charlemagne's body, put it on board of a train going north, where they had the intention of publicly displaying it. They stripped him of his clothes, exposing him as a way to mark his shame. They wanted everyone to see his body, but they couldn't make him stand. So they took a rope and a door and tied him to it and stood it upright in the public square of Grand Rivière du Nord. They placed the shredded Haitian flag at his feet as a way of proclaiming that Haiti was underneath the Americans and there was nothing that they can do about it. This public display of gratuitous violence did not stop. In fact, it was captured on camera. This scene of Charlemagne Péralte's subjection was captured on a photo that was then duplicated and dispersed to all Haitian masses by the Americans as a way of psychologically torturing the Haitians. It was meant to have the intention of destroying rebellion in their hearts. They wanted to intimidate all Haitians to stop any and all signs of resistance and stop trying to expel them from their country. All this psychological terror was meant to make them submit, because terror and gratuitous violence was necessary for white American supremacy to flourish. Eventually, the Americans wanted to get rid of the body, but they wanted to put it in a place where no one would find it. On November 3rd, 1919, they brought Charlemagne's body to a Post Chabert, a concentration camp located outside of Trou de Nord. There, they wrapped his body in a burlap sack that was used for sugar and placed him in a hole. They had a Haitian laborer pour concrete over his body so that his body would not be easily disinterred. And finally, they placed a guard over the site to ensure that no one would be able to find him. This guard later recalled that Charlemagne had been buried like a dog. Haiti's freedom fighter had been assassinated. Many Haitians, in trying to make sense out of senselessness, to try to offset the psychological terror, took the last image of Charlemagne Péralte's body and tried to reframe it to make hope rise again. In seeing his body fastened against the door with his arms spaced out to the side, many were reminded of Catholic depictions of Jesus crucified on a cross. Haitians began seeing this image of their defender as a martyr who died for the cause of Haiti's liberty. The Marines continued to seek out and destroy the Kako movement. Over 3,000 innocent and unarmed Haitian citizens were murdered. Many were imprisoned, and many cattle were killed as a way to create food insecurity. But the movement for Haiti's freedom did not die with Péralte. Resistance continued, despite both the United States military and the Haitian puppet president separately awarding the Marines who took out Péralte with medals. The violent American occupation lasted until 1934, when Haitian President Stéphane Vincent met with United States President Franklin Roosevelt and had them withdraw their troops from Haiti. Vincent, in a way to inaugurate the second liberation of Haiti, wanted to honor the man who didn't live long enough to see Haiti's freedom. On October 19, 1934, Péralte's remains were found and exhumed. His elderly mother, Marie-Claire Emmanuel, was brought in to identify her son's remains, which she was able to due to a gold tooth that he had. On November 26, 1934, 15 years after his death in a secret burial, he was placed in a coffin and a funeral was held. Charlemagne Péralte, the man who died while fighting for the liberation of his people, was finally laid to rest in a tomb in Cimetière des Cap-Haïtiens.